Hi, it's Kirsten back again with an integrated physiotherapy and yoga therapy practice. This week's practice is all about exploring your rib cage. Um, and in order to give you some context, I really like to consider the rib cage as the hub of movement for your arms, for your upper extremity. The rib cage is where the mobility and stability that we need to express, to reach out into the world, to touch other people, to write. Um, it all starts at our rib cage and moves out through our arms. And also, when we receive back from the world, so often it's through touch, and so we touch with our hands and we receive that information and it comes back in to this hub of your rib cage. So it's a really important place to build some awareness around in terms of how you're moving and how you're feeling. The other interesting piece with your rib cage, is to consider what's housed inside of your rib cage. You have your heart and your lungs. Um, pretty valuable stuff stored inside your rib cage. So in one way, you can consider the rib cage as this hub of movement and expression. It's a connection between your heart out through your arms into your hand, and then back and forth, heart to hand, heart to hand. So we're going to move through a couple movements, a couple explorations to help you gain some awareness around your rib cage. It's kind of a part of ourselves that I find can be overlooked. We're lucky; it just works. It just expands, contracts, expand, contracts, so that we can breathe. And our hips and our shoulders all connect up back into the rib cage. So it can be a really, really neat place to explore, to learn a little bit more about how you move and how you express in this world. So we're going to need a few props for today's practice, as usual. You'll have to have. I'm sitting up on a block. We're going to be seated for most of this practice. So if you're comfortable sitting propped up on a block, that's great. If you'd like to bring in a chair and sit on a chair, that's totally fine as well. So just make sure you've got what you need so that you can sit comfortably for 20 minutes or so. We're also going to be using a massage ball today. So I've got the yoga tune-up balls. If you have one of those, that's great. If not, a tennis ball works well. There's some dog like chew toy balls that work really, really well. Squash balls are good. So if you can just find a round spherical object that you can use, then you'll need a rather firm blanket to be able to roll up, and then a pillow for under your head. So comfortable seating surface, massage ball, firm blanket, and a pillow for under your head. So let's get started. Sitting comfortably in whatever position fits for you. We're going to start with an exploration of the rib cage. And I chuckle because this reminds me of Tarzan. So bringing your hands just up to the bottom of your ribs, and you can just trace the rib cage all the way around to your back. Trace that bottom edge of your rib cage. Wonderful. And then just bringing your hands up. Your ribs come all the way up. Really, they come all the way up, right into the tops of your shoulders. One of our top ribs is way up here. We can't feel it. It's nicely protected. But ribs are all the way up here. From like here to here is all ribs, all down the sides. So the Tarzan bit comes in when you just make a gentle fist, and I'd just like you to tap. Tap your ribs. Moving around. You can come around onto the back of your ribs, trying to get the sides, the front, the back, the top, the bottom. Hello, rib cage. It's nice to speak to you. We're going to be giving you some attention this morning. Great. And then when you're finished that, just sitting again. Notice how you feel. See if you have any increased awareness of your rib cage. As I said, the rib cage is your hub of movement for your upper extremity, for your arms, the hub of expression. So the next movement we're going to move through is shoulder blade movement. So our shoulder blades connect onto our rib cage, and then our arms connect into our shoulder blades. So let's move our shoulder blades gently. We're going to lift shoulder blades up and then gently slide them back and down. Shoulder blades elevate as you lift up. They retract as you slide them back towards your spine, and then they gently depress as you lower them down. And as you continue with these nice, easy circles, I'd like you to check back in with your rib cage. Notice there's a couple common patterns that come up. One of them is during the retraction phase, or the pulling your shoulder blades back phase of this movement, that people tend to press their rib cage forward as they retract. So if you're noticing that, I'd ask you for today just to let that go. Only retract or pull your shoulder blades back as far as you can, allowing your ribs to remain stable and quiet. Good. Another common pattern that I see is during the depression or the pulling the shoulder blades down phase of this movement, that people can get into using, perhaps they're using quadratus lumborum, QLs, to really pull their whole rib cage down. They're using the muscles of the low back to let the shoulder blades come down, and they don't have to. So again, we'd like to have this movement of shoulder blades on your rib cage be just that. Rib cage gets to stay a soft, pliable platform for your shoulder blades to move on. No need for the muscles in your low back to get involved. No need for your chest, for your ribs to press forward either. Great. So finish up with that. We're going to move into cow face arms, or a version of something similar to that. So you can bring your right arm out to the side, then turning from your arm bone, turning so that your arm rolls so that the palm of your hand kind of faces back behind you, then bending your elbow and just bringing your hand in to rest behind your back. There's no need to try to reach up the length of your spine. So your arm's just resting across your low back. The other arm, left arm, is going to come straight up. Then elbow will bend and your hand will just rest behind your head, behind your back. Good. And then we'll switch sides. Left arm comes in behind, right arm comes up and rests back. So again, what I'd like you to notice is if your rib cage is bracing or holding or trying to help you out with this movement. This movement, cow face arms, is really all about your shoulder joint. Arm bone connecting into your shoulder blade, and your shoulder blade will move on the back of your rib cage. So your rib cage does not need to move to help you with this. So I'm not saying hold your rib cage really steady and then try this movement. I'm saying leave your rib cage alone. Let it be. Let your shoulders do the work. So just noticing if when you're bringing the arm back behind you, if you are kind of side bending, lowering your ribs to get into that position, or if when you're bringing the other arm up, if there's that flaring forward action happening again. So just let your arm bones do this movement. And notice your rib cage. Notice the hub of movement, the hub of expression as you move through the shoulders. Great. Come on back. We'll be coming back to this movement at the end as well, so you can look forward to that. So we've talked about rib cage itself. We've talked about how the shoulder blades connect onto the rib cage. We've looked at how shoulder movement lands in your rib cage. Another place that connects to your ribs is your neck, right up into your head. So let's take a look at some gentle movements for your neck. So I'd just like you to let your right ear come down to your right shoulder. Then gently turn to look down so your chin comes closer to that shoulder. Then you can roll your head back to center and then bring your head back up straight. Off to the left side, chin towards left shoulder. Oh, curious. So when I brought my chin down, there was a subtle movement, I'm exaggerating it now, of my ribs shifting off to the right. So, isn't that cool? I think so. So, again, moving with awareness of my rib cage. How far can I go? Just letting the muscles that connect my ribs to my head, to my neck, do this. Ear to shoulder, gently turning chin down towards left shoulder, rolling back to center, and then back up straight. Wonderful. Continue a few more times each side, ear to shoulder, chin turns down, head kind of rolls forward, and then back to center. And feeling what you feel, really trying to tap into the movement patterns, the relationships that you have between your neck and your ribs. Great. So finishing up with that movement and just taking stock again. What have you noticed in the movements that we've done so far? Good. The really cool thing about this noticing is that if you notice a relationship between your shoulder blades and your rib cage, or between your neck and your rib cage, now you've got this powerful information with which to create change. So if you desire to change something, if you're feeling or experiencing any pain in your low back, in your shoulders, in your neck, now you've got another little piece of information that can help you choose movements that will help support you moving out of pain. Really, really powerful information. As opposed to just doing a movement looking for a stretch, looking for a fix it. With the awareness piece, you're far more likely to get long-term gains, far more likely to experience healing. Next thing, we're going to use the yoga tune-up ball. So this, we will be coming down a little bit lower to the ground for this part of the practice. So before we get the balls, I'd like you to reach under to the back side of your armpit. When your arm kind of lifts and lowers, you may feel your shoulder blade kind of comes and pushes into your hand, because your shoulder blade upwardly rotates on the back of your ribs as you lift your arms up. So you can feel the outer edge of your shoulder blade here, and you can feel the muscles and the tissues that sit here between your ribs and your shoulder blade. This is where we're going to work with the massage balls. So this can get a little intense, a little sticky, icky. So move generously with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. So we're going to place the ball on that spot where you could feel the outer edge of your shoulder blades and your ribs, and then just bringing yourself down over the ball. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. You decide how much pressure you're putting through. If this is feeling just awkward and uncomfortable at all, laying down, you can always go up to the wall and just pin the ball in this space between your shoulder blade and the wall, and then roll around this way. So here, just using the ball to check in with the tissues. Some of the tissues that connect shoulder blade onto your ribs. So we've got your serratus anterior under here. You're also likely getting into some of the rotator cuff muscles that connect your arm bone to your shoulder blade. Great. Good. Let's do that on the other side. So finding the back edge of your shoulder blade, yoga tune-up ball is going to come in there. Laying down. Again, you play with pressure. Be easy with yourself here. Knowing that the rib cage and its connection out from heart to hand is, yes, it's the hub of movement for your upper extremities, also the hub of your expression. And I find, in my experience anyways, that my expression can get a little sticky. There can be a little apprehension about saying things to myself or to others. So these parts can be a little sticky. Be gentle with yourself. You can't do this wrong. Roll front and back, up and down. And if you find one of those sweet spots, you can just linger and breathe. Awesome. Come on back up. Coming back into your comfortable seated position. And feel what you feel here now. Great. The next movement we're going to explore is using the firm blanket that I asked you to find and your pillow. So we're going to be coming into side lying over top of a roll. So I've got this is just a foam pad, so it's just felt on the inside. If you've got a foam pad, great, go ahead and use that. Not many people have these. So a blanket rolled up will work just as well. So you're rolling up the blanket and having your pillow right nearby for your head. As you come down over this rolled blanket, the contact point that you're looking for is from the base of your ribs kind of to the top of your shoulder, like halfway point, right on the side of your rib cage. Your lower arm, for me it's my right arm, will rest in the space between the roll and the pillows. And then as you slowly lay yourself over the roll, we're getting a bit of an opening of the ribs on the top and a bit of a compression over the roll of the ribs on the bottom. And then we breathe. You can bring your top hand onto your ribs. And feel the movement of your rib cage as you inhale and as you exhale. Great. Okay, let's come up to the other side. So you can just roll right over. I will switch sides so that you can still see me. So again, coming down onto the other side. When you're coming down this time, a little bit more familiar with where we're headed. Can you notice sometimes what happens is as we come down, people will roll forward or will roll back as they're coming over the roll. Just notice if that happens and do your best to let yourself come straight down to the side. So if there's a roll forward or a roll back, that's totally fine. It just indicates that there might be something a little holding or a little sticky that prevents you from being able to go straight to your side. And then once you land, you don't need to increase the amount of your breath, the volume of your breath. Just keep the depth of your breath the same, but bring your awareness, your feeling, kind of sensing self up into the top rib cage again. If it's helpful to bring your hand there to feel that, go for it. Your arm can really rest wherever it likes. Let's do a few more breaths here. Great. Okay, we're going to stay low for our next movement. You can just roll all of these props out of the way and come right down onto your back. And again, a chance just to check in with your ribs. Check in with your breath. And then the final kind of connection or relationship to ribs that we're going to explore is that of the connection of our ribs down to your pelvis. So there's really lots of good stuff in this space between ribs and pelvis. So let's explore with a really gentle twist. So you can bring your left ankle up and cross over your knee. So this is kind of like a reclined pigeon pose. Then keeping your awareness on your ribs, just let your pelvis and therefore your legs gently roll from one side and to the other. So notice when the back of your rib cage, when it wants to lift up and follow your pelvis over into the roll. And then just move in the range where your ribs again get to stay that nice, quiet, responsive hub of movement and expression. Not letting your pelvis drag them around. Finish up on that side, and then we'll do the exact same thing, crossing right ankle over left knee. And again, rolling side to side. You'll notice I haven't been cueing when to breathe or like exhale here, inhale here when we're moving. Instead, I do that purposefully, or I do not do that purposefully. What I would rather you do, where I think there's more information for you to gather, is in noticing if your breath changes with a movement. And can you move in a way that allows your breath just to stay its calm, steady self? And finish up with that. We'll come back up to our comfortable seated position. Again, whether that's on a chair or on a block or sitting cross-legged on the floor, that is up to you. And then we're back where we began. Notice how you feel sitting here now compared to about 20 minutes ago. And then it's always interesting to check back in with the movement that we did earlier. So let's check back in with that cow face pose arms move. So right arm will come out to the side, turn back, and then just rest behind. Left arm will come up and rest behind. And then switching sides. Has there been any shift in the freedom of your shoulders to move? Has there been any shift in the amount of bracing or striving through your rib cage to help you complete this movement? Has this changed? Great. So I hope you've enjoyed exploring your rib cage. Thanks you for watching. One final little bit for your consideration as you kind of continue to feel the effects of this rib cage focused practice on your whole system. There's a saying that I've heard quite a lot from my yoga therapy teacher, Susie Haitley, and I've heard it elsewhere as well. I've heard it in rehab physio kind of circles as well. It sounds a little different in both places, but basically it's this, that a well-functioning system, meaning a system that's functioning in within this certain level of awareness, of feeling, that system naturally tends upward. So there's a natural lightness in the system. So if you've noticed that from this practice, that it's just easier to sit, that things are just naturally lighter, consider that you can have that all of the time. You've nurtured it, you created it here in this practice. And whatever result you've gained from this practice, you can have it. You can have it. It's possible for you. The key is in the consistency of practice. The key is in you feeling what you feel and acknowledging what you feel, noticing the relationships. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again.
Bye, everyone.